Honestly, when you do your research on everything, whenever you can't make the time to watch the full college season, you actually realize picking at number 7, hopefully lucky number 7 lands, there's going to be a lot of good prospects that are going to fall. And that's what we're going to be going over today. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Titan Tavern, where all guests and fans are welcome. I am your host, Tristan. Now everybody, grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about some NFL draft prospects. Today we are going to be going over some draft prospects that I think the Titans should be targeting. Now, of course, there are two positions that I have said repeatedly that I think they should be targeting, and that is the wide receiver as well as the offensive line. To be perfectly honest, doing research, I would actually be content with either, to be honest. But of course, at this time, we are going to be going over some wide receivers. Now, of course, you've got the obvious one, Marvin Harrison Jr. Unless something absolutely terrible happens and his draft grades skyrocket downwards, and I don't even think that's going to do anything, there's no way he's going to be there at 7. There's too many teams that need a receiver that are drafting close to the top. So basically, I didn't really do much research on him. Now, there is two receivers that I do really like, but there's a good chance that they're going to be taken before. And of course, those are Malik Neighbors from LSU and Rome Odunze. I apologize if I say these names wrong, by the way. I'm not that good with names. So basically, Malik Neighbors was essentially like the second best receiver in college. And looking over his stats through his career at LSU, this guy just got better and better and better every single season. The 2023 to 2024 season, he had 89 catches for 1,569 yards. So yes, I know the numbers are quite inflated due to college being much more offensive powered now than what it used to be, especially compared to the NFL. You don't commonly see receivers in the NFL reaching 1,500 yards. At least not multiple receivers all in the same season. You're usually not seeing that. But that alone, it was way more than any Titans receiver. The closest one was DeAndre Hopkins, and he still beat him by 500 yards. So not saying that he's going to be better than DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm just saying that he's got really good talent, and he's got good hands. He did also catch for 14 touchdowns, which of course LSU at times was a very dominant offense. Which, again, is better than actually almost every single receiver in the NFL, because as y'all noticed if you watched the NFL, this season especially, the offense took a downward spiral at points. Basically, what he's got, and this is something that is amazing, is he's got speed, he's got good talent, he's got good size, sitting at 6'4", sitting at 6 foot and about 200 pounds, so he's got good size. But he's also a very, very solid route runner, which is always a must-need in the NFL. We've got very dominant receivers in the NFL, and previous ones that were basically some of the best route runners in the league. Those are the ones that commonly last the longest because they have something that other receivers don't have for longevity's sakes. Basically, I think if he fell, but I know the Cardinals are going to draft Marvin Harrison. And I think, honestly, if Malik Neighbors doesn't go, this depends heavily on the Giants, I think. Because the Giants could draft Malik Neighbors or they could go O-line. And then, of course, you also have to worry about the Chargers, too, that are picking in front of the Titans as well. Their needs are also O-line and receiver. So, unfortunately, the Titans might just have to get the third or swap over. Now, of course, if this guy does get taken, and this next guy from Washington is on the board, I would love for the Titans to get him. Rome Odunze, sitting at 6'3", so very good size for a receiver. And 215 pounds, this guy is basically he's basically like your DK Metcalf. It's just, he's got strength, size, and speed. Basically, for anything dealing with big impact, he's going to be there. He had 92 catches for 1,640 yards and 13 touchdowns. So this guy, just because he would be targeted a lot, just because of size alone, he didn't give up. He's basically like a miniature tight end. Which, actually, I think the Titans would benefit a lot from, because you can always draft speed. You can always look for people that have good route running. But what's a massive, intimidating threat? A receiver that is fast and just taller than the average size of defensive backs by over 4 inches. So that, along with arm length that he also has, he'd be able to make some pretty miraculous catches as well. Now, if the Titans cannot get any of those three, I wouldn't mind another one, but I think he might fall to another team at a later point, and that would be Troy Franklin. Now, he is also sitting at 6'3". However, he's sitting at 180 pounds, so he doesn't have the size as Rome does. But he's also got similar traits to him as well. Basically, he is a burner. He is the one that you want to stretch the field with. Now, the only problem with him that I saw is because of the fact that he is 6'3", and he's not very, and I mean, yes, of course, he's big. He's a football player. They're all big. But because of his speed and his size, he was used much more as essentially a vertical threat. So his route tree that he learned in college really is not a lot. So of course that can be taught over time. And I think any team that gets him is gonna say, we're gonna want you a lot for the deep, but we're gonna also hit you in the middle a lot. Because I think really you're gonna want big guys in the middle, just because you can just outsize them. And really, like, as far as it goes for route trees go, it's not ideal not knowing a lot, but also at the same time, if you're not asked to do a lot, it's not really seen as a fault. It's more of they saw your talents in Oregon as you're a stretcher, you're a field breaker. And again, this guy would be amazing and pretty much on any team. And it would be nice to have a burner. I do think the Titans do need to target either more of a big receiver that has speed, or a really crisp route runner. Because route running and size might be better than speed, because we've seen speed not be the most crucial. Now, of course, the next one that I did a decent amount of research on is a guy that has two things that I do really like, and that is speed, and that is route running. However, he does not have big size. But this guy is much more of a slot guy, and it actually makes a lot of sense why. Sitting at 5'11", 185 pounds, Lad McConkey from Georgia. Actually, doing research on him, he is essentially going to be a very, very solid slot receiver. Now, this one's pretty low on my list for as Titan needs, because I don't see them needing a slot receiver all that much at all, because I think there are just better options to get a veteran slot receiver through free agency. But that's not to say anything about this guy's talents. I think he's going to be really good in this league. I think all of these receivers are going to do incredible in the league. This is a really deep wide receiver class, so it was pretty hard picking exactly who I would like to see go to the Titans. But of course, personally, I would like to see Rome Odunze from Washington. I know for a fact we ain't getting Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors, I think, is going to get taken. This one, again, I say it depends, because I think I could see the Giants taking him or the Chargers taking him. I just don't know what the Giants are going to do, because it's still super early. I can see the Giants taking a quarterback, because there is a lot of good quarterbacks in this class, but you also got to think about their contract situation and everything with that, and if they really want to stick with Daniel Jones or not. And so there's a lot depending on two teams, the Giants and the Chargers. And it stinks because the Chargers have similar needs to the Titans, so they could be taking somebody that the Titans really want. But there is actually another group that I've been doing a lot of research on as well. And that is, of course, who we're moving on to with the next section, which is going to be the offensive line. Now, this is a position group that I see pretty much in any mock draft the Titans are always picking. And it's almost exclusively the man that we're going to be starting off this list with Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Now, actually, oddly enough, for my notes, whenever looking into this guy, I actually wrote the first thing is must need. um, throughout his throughout his 2023 to 2024 season, he only allowed 1 sack and 5 pressures throughout the entire season for Notre Dame. This guy is very skilled. He's got good footwork. He can hold his own against edges, which is something that the Titans really struggled with. While maybe they could at times hold down the front, it was the edges that just downright blitzed and destroyed any chances the Titans had of short field position for second or third downs. Now, listen, I think with this one, if we see the Titans take him, or if they take another lineman, I think that's going to be kind of a choosing point secretly of who they're going to be taking, of how they're going to be running their offense. So you got Joe Oltz, who is a very, very dominant pass defender. He can hold his own for extended plays, which is good. He does need just to work on a few small things, but I mean, he's got size and he's got presence and he's got arm length, which is actually very crucial if you think about it for the offensive line as well as defensive line as well, because of the fact that whoever has the longest arm length can reach first. And if he can reach first against some of these big guys in the league that are edge rushers, then he can do what he is best at, and that is locking them down without holding, which is, again, a massive penalty the Titans have faced here in these past few seasons. Pretty much, I think, if he drops to 7 and the Titans draft him, I'm going to be perfectly fine with it. It's not the sexy pick. It's not this is a game breaker. It's we're rebuilding, and this guy is our future lineman for the next decade. Now, basically, with that going, there is 2 more linemen actually that I can see where the Titans are going to stick with a more run-first offense or a run-prominent offense, and that is with Olumiwe Fashanu, basically from the offensive tackle from Penn State, sitting at 6'6", 320. He is going to be the choice for if your offense is going to be running first. However, there are some weaknesses that I have seen with him, and there are some weaknesses that are pretty well known about him, and that is basically he's very good at what he does for holding down blocks, for running, and making holes for their running backs to go through. However, it is, and it has even been noted in his reports, as well as just watching film, he has a tendency to give up before the whistle at points. And listen, this of course can easily be ironed out through just a few games. Because believe me, if running back and getting the holes that they need, that line's gonna hear about it. It's what the Titans line has been hearing for years now. Now that of course can be taught out and trained away. Other than that, he's extremely physical. He's got great footwork. He can lock down the edges as long as he just doesn't. As long as he just waits until that whistle is blown. Once that is done, he's gonna be a premium tackle for running offenses. Now this next guy, this one's gonna be for any team, and I see any team getting this guy lucky, because the best thing about linemen is consistency. Now Joe Alt never struggled with consistency. Fashanu struggled a little bit with consistency. J.C. Latham is just probably one of the more consistent linemen in this one, I would say. He's got, basically with him, he's got quick footwork, so he's very good with setting up for passing, for pass blocking. He let up 0 sacks and is good at run blocking as well. So really, no matter what, you are getting a good, consistent player with this guy. Probably within a few years, the guys that I'm going to be talking about here, in a few years, these guys are going to be considered elites. I think, at least. Now, the only issue is, and the only thing that I'd be fearful about, is he does have slight issues with extended plays. So if the quarterback likes to extend plays, he would not be the best choice, because he does have a tendency to get called for holding. Well, he did have a tendency to get called for holding. And pretty much did have that come up a lot throughout his time in college. That, of course, can get ironed out, but old habits do die hard, and that could be one thing that could hold him back and could have made his draft stock drop a little bit. But I think no matter what, he's going to be the 3rd offensive lineman taken in this draft. And then, of course, there is Amarius Mims. Basically, this guy is nearly perfect, except he's got problems. He is amazing at run blocking and amazing at pass blocking. Doesn't allow much pressures at all. Great for making holes for the running back. Great for defending sides. He is just very... It's a weird fault. He's very physical. And the only issue that brings up is with hand fighting. And what I mean by hand fighting is while you're defending your quarterback and while you're blocking for runs, linemen are going to be moving their arms and hands a lot whenever they have a guy locked down. And if you have a very wild movement with your arms, this mistake can get done a lot. And that is called on so much more in the NFL than it is in college. Hands to the face is a rough penalty to have. Now, honestly, getting penalized through that, I think would benefit him a lot in the NFL because it would teach him that you cannot be wild in the NFL with any of your handwork. You have to be very precise and clean and thoughtful. If he gets that worked out, he is competing with Joe Alt with being the best offensive lineman in this class. I mean, you've got, for all of these guys, you've got big size, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". 315 pounds is the smallest, to 340 pounds is the biggest. So these guys are going to be your lockdown pretty much for the next decade. I would be happy with any of these guys. My preferences would be Joe Alt or Rome Odunze. So as far as that goes, and personally, that's who I think would be the best picks for the Titans to do for this draft. Now, if it hasn't been obvious through my videos about talking about the Titans, you may be thinking, wow, you only think that the Titans need to work on line and receivers. That is not true in the slightest. Watching all the games for the Titans, I know that our defensive line was a strong suit, but we do have people going into free agency with expiring contracts that we do need to keep, and if we don't choose to keep them, it's going to really weaken our defense. Now, here's the thing. I already know that the Titans need to help out Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line. We need better edge rushers. We need better defensive tackles. We need better linebackers. We need better defensive backs. I mean, basically, the Titans are in this for the long haul, and they need to, quoting from my best friend, we need to embrace the rebuild and embrace the fact that we're not going to be good. And it's okay to admit that your football team is not good. Now, again, I think the Titans should look into defense for drafting into free agency, and I think in free agency they should look to stay young on the defense. Younger players do tend to make more mistakes, but they grow. Pretty much, I think what the Titans need to do is they need to know for a fact they need to build around Will Levis, and they need to figure out, is this going to be the quarterback for our future? And if so, we cannot let him sink down and ruin his confidence, because then you're just going to ruin his career. So you build the offense around Will Levis, you get receivers, you get linemen, and you get tight ends, and you get running backs that can help elevate him and his style of play, along with Brian Callahan's style of coaching. You let the offense raise everything, and here's the thing. If the offense is scoring, defenses want to play harder. because they know that the offense has their backs and they don't want to be the ones letting the team down. We've seen that commonly through the NFL. We've seen primarily defenses carry offenses, especially with last season and especially with several Super Bowls as well. But I think the most important thing to do right now, because you have a second-year quarterback, build his confidence, let him be who he is with his new head coach, and then don't abandon the defense at all. Draft players that you think are going to be diamonds in the rough, and just keep them and just develop them. And it's going to take years. Not every team is going to get better within the very next season. So I think really we need to take the long approach. I would love the Titans to win a Super Bowl at some point. They're not beating the Chiefs right now. They're not beating the Bills right now. They're not. We only beat the Dolphins because they collapsed. We're not beating the Ravens. We're not beating, even if we make it to the Super Bowl, if we made it to the Super Bowl next season, we're not beating the Lions. We're not beating San Fran if they make it. I mean, there's a lot of good teams. But if you look at it, the Titans are down here. The Super Bowl teams are up, way up here. And in the middle, you've got like on the playoff teams. The Titans need to start here. It's what every team starting a rebuild starts off at. We're gonna grow and we're gonna get better. We just gotta stick with it. Stick with a few more rough years, Titans fans, and we're gonna be winners soon. And that is all I have for today, everybody. As always, thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to. It always helps me out. And as always, thank you for stopping by. And as always, tighten up, baby.